It's about getting into schools and talking to young people because, I know that people can change. And it's about talking to people and getting them to understand and perhaps step back from violence and prejudice and whatever. And we just need to work together and keep on the good fight there.
Absolutely. Hey there, guys. We are ecstatically happy to announce that we are associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
The times are changing, and with the unfortunate death of Sophie, those changes have made a massive impact for the future. If Sophie was with us still today, I can guarantee what you are doing will still be reaching so many lives of young teenagers, young adults, and those who wish to be as different as possible. So thank you very much.
To find out more about this incredible foundation and all the work they do, and more importantly, how you can help, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hi, my name is Michalina Malisz and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast.
Oh, you're all here. Oh, hiya. It's the Chronicles of Podcast. And we're back for, what distance is it now, Jamie? 33?
33!
Oh, wow, okay. I mean, where are your hands? Yeah, there you go. Jamie didn't put his hands up, guys. Let's all send him abusive emails right now. Let's send him abusive messages right now. I'm joking. Welcome to the third edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And I believe, Jamie, these are the Chronicles of Nell Campbell?
Yeah, they are.
Sweet. Should we get this show on the road?
I think we definitely should.
Wonderful. I'll drive. Hit it. Right. I better bring in that piece of resistance.
Definitely should.
Yeah, should I bring it in?
Yeah, go on.
Welcome to the Chronicles of Nell Campbell. Nell Campbell, also known as Little Nell, played Colombia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That cult classic that's still a classic today. What a movie. Unfucking believable. Jamie, what a get. What
this is amazing.
Get. It was such a great interview. And our first ever interview from Australia.
Australia, mate, is a little bit weird. It was nighttime for us and bright fucking morning. She was eating her breakfast when we started talking to her.
And try not to get flooded.
Well, that, yeah.
So,
this is bonkers, but on the best way.
It's a great interview. Obviously, Australia had this horrific floods, if you weren't aware, a few weeks back. I don't know what things are like now. Hopefully better, I imagine. So there's quite a few soapboxes in this interview. She gets on quite a few of them. But it's just absolutely batshit and wonderful. I'm not going to lie.
It is wonderfully batshit crazy. We do like to put out a little warning that when we have this sort of thing, there's quite a lot of political talk. Nell is very passionate about politics and stuff like that. So there is quite a lot of talk about that. But she's so eloquent in the way she talks about all these things, but she's utterly insane at the same time as she does it. It's wonderful. This is pretty much what I expected this interview to be before we had it, to be honest, just knowing what I know about now.
Yeah, so if you expect to hear me and Jamie talk, we don't really. So it's just great interview because you don't really hear me and Jamie speak. So there's a lot of like, no way, whoa, what, no, amazing. That's all we pretty much say the entire thing, and it's great. We love it. Like Jamie said, just to pre-warn you all, there is a lot of political talk in this. These are all obviously from Nell herself. I think we input a bit here and there, but nothing too much. Obviously, we try to not make the show political in any way, shape, or form. But I feel matters are very important right now and things need to be addressed. So we let Nell just go for it, basically, and let her say what she wanted to say. It was her time to speak. It was her interview, so she could say whatever she liked. We do not judge here.
Not at all. And I think this might be our third, maybe fourth interview we've done where the guests' pets like to get involved as well.
Yes, there are a lot of cats in this interview, a lot of cats and reoccurring cats they really enjoyed the camera, they really enjoyed the Vegemite on toast. So,
but unlike Adam Goodman's interview, no cat butts.
So no cat butts this time. Just about cat faces.
No, this is great. This meant the world to me, being a huge Rocky Horror fan. So this was delightful.
Everybody, please go watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show after you've listened to this interview. Jamie, any final words?
No, just thank you so much, Nell. You made my little heart happy with this. It was a beautiful conversation. Really enjoyed this so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, she plays Colombia in the cult classic Rocky Horror Picture Show. She is a crazy-ass Australian who got kicked off a TV for swearing. Fuck knows why. It's Nell Campbell.
There she is.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
I'm here with my Vegemite on toast, an iced coffee, Shane Warne's last meal.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay. I can't believe he's. I'm not even a cricket fan, but fuck me, that was nuts.
Absolutely. My mother was was a total cricket fan. I want to learn. I've actually decided I need to become a cricket fan before Warney died, because my friend well, we can talk about this when you interview. Do you want to start the interview?
Yeah. We first and foremost just wanted to say so sorry about yesterday.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Where are you guys?
In the
We're
UK.
in the UK.
Darling, that's like saying I'm in fucking Europe. You know, or I'm in Africa. It's like 112 countries. You could be in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. I want specifics. Where the fuck are you?
I'm in Cardiff, Wales.
And I'm in Birmingham, England.
There you go. Wales is a different country. Scotland's a different. Okay, so you're in Wales and you're in.
I'm Birmingham, England.
Birmingham, England. Okay, you're in the north. What
Wow.
Birmingham? Wait, don't tell me. Wait there. I can almost tell you what people from Birmingham are called. It's a word. Is it a word like bluffy or what is it?
Brummies.
Burmese. Okay, yeah. Well, I was sort of nearly there. And Welsh. No, I adore Birmingham, and I've been there once, I think, when I was in the sort of 70s. And Wales, I adore. I stay there, quite a bit. Not quite a bit, but it's divine.
Yeah. I mean,
my friend at the time went into a Welsh pub, and I was shopping or something. He came back and he was like, he's Irish American. He's like, Jesus, those Welsh, very somber in their pubs.
Yeah, they don't really do a whole lot here. I mean, I'm Scottish with an English accent.
I thought you sounded Scottish. Okay, I got to show you something.
Okay.
I'm trying to sorry to swear. I'm trying to repost it on Instagram, right? You know that thing, it's been posted to your clipboard. Would you, to try and find your clipboard on Instagram. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This is blowing my mind, not blowing, well, hold on. I've got to get the volume. I'm a 61-year-old grandfather from Scotland that travelled from Edinburgh to Kiev to help in the fight against the Russians. I will do anything I want to stop the Russians from capturing Kiev. Long live Ukraine. Slow green. I'm a 61-year-old grandfather. Go back! I mean, come on!
That's amazing.
It is unbelievable, isn't it?
Oh.
I don't know. Do you guys follow Instagram? Do Instagram?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you follow me.
I do.
But, I mean, yesterday, I posted, 66. Well, I think we should talk about this. Start interviewing me instantly.
Right now.
Right now.
Bring it on.
Well, I'll tell you what now, what we normally do is I do a little intro, just bring you in, and then we just bombard you with questions.
You start.
You can also swear as much as you like here.
Thank you. I'm like on television 2 weeks ago. Go on. Yeah.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special one for me. Today, we welcome to the show an amazing woman full of talent, charisma, and personality. Today's guest is best known for her iconic role as Colombia in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, a lady who apparently has a thing against high heel shoes. Everyone, these are the Chronicles of Nell Campbell.
Okay. I want you to see what's going on outside right now.
Is it raining?
Can you see the pouring rain?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just about, yeah.
You know that Australia is under floods right now. Look at this. Ouch.
That's a lot of rain.
It's been like this for maybe 3 weeks and then way harder. And all of Queensland's under about 3 meters of water.
That is nuts.
And it's important that your viewers, that's what what's he called? Frank Skinner calls his listeners, viewers, know that the Prime Minister of Australia, whose name I don't want to say, he's known as ScoMo, does not believe in climate change and is I don't like the term happy clapper, but he's a member of a cult religion called Hillsong, which Justin Bieber was a member of. And it's a loony cult and it's quite, and there's a lot of sort of important Australians that are a member of it. It's a CULT. Can you believe it? That is our Prime Minister. We have the most dreadful politicians almost all the time here. You'd think of Australia as a modern, forward-thinking country. Think again.
That's absolutely crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, we are having, and also look at the weather in, I don't know, in Wales. You had this big storm that they had in England.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure you did. I lived in England for 14 years and let's face it, you had the most boring, ghast, dreary weather ever, but you did not have all these extreme storms. I'm seeing wind in Sydney that I've never seen before in my life. And I'm not talking about this storm which is just flooding the whole country. It's just everything's just having such extreme weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all know it, but what I can't understand, and Rocky Horror fans, I won't bore you to death with my global politics, but I might put you to sleep. Anyway, but no, I will talk about Rocky Horror and my fabulous everything, but I do think it's important. What I can't understand is in about 35 years that we've talked about, or 40 years that we've talked about climate change, which is obviously you guys are much younger than me, but so little has been, the people that really need to make the difference have done so little. And the situation is virtually irreversible. And I don't understand why all plastic hasn't been banned. Why, and I don't see why all supermarkets don't allow plastic of any kind. And here's the deal. We all know now that, we know that they've invented, bags made out of beeswax and and vegetable matter. And so they can replace them. And of course, those people need to work. And it's not like people are going to lose jobs because the people making all the variations of biodegradable, materials can be having that job that those making the plastics have. I just don't get it. Why isn't it just like, okay, from next month on, everybody, and all things made of plastic, they need to find different ways, bamboo and what's that other one? Hemp. Yeah. Things are incredible. Yeah, anyway, okay, there's that. So I'm talking to you with this pouring rain. So, and the other thing that we just have to all think about right now is the Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know what to say.
Well, I know that I'm sure everyone listening is in agreement. And that is because we have a raving lunatic making the decisions in Russia, that being, of course, Putin, where there's no logic, reason, anything to, so,
no.
Anyway, so all the politicians that are speaking to him and whatever, it's like Hitler at the very end. Actually, Hitler all through.
The amount of times I've tried to read and understand why he's doing what he's doing, and I think I've read about 5 different variations, and I still don't understand it at all.
Well, I think to simplify it, very simply, Russia used to encompass quite a few more countries. They broke away from Russia, and he wants them back.
Yeah,
because he wants to be a superpower. It would be the equivalent if Boris, your absolutely ludicrous Boris Johnson, say, I mean, as an Australian, and as I sit here in drowning Sydney, Australia, we're a member of the Commonwealth. Could we please dissolve the Commonwealth the day the Queen dies? Canada, Australia, so many other countries are still part of this Commonwealth. We're all over it. We don't want to have a queen anymore. We don't want to be part of the Commonwealth. But that would be like as if the English said, we want to take back India, Africa, all of Africa, etc., and all the other countries that they no longer have, Pakistan, etc. That's what it's the equivalent of.
That's probably the easiest description.
Yeah.
Well, because obviously,
it's anyway. Carry on.
No, it's okay. It's just I was thinking, going back to your climate change thing. Didn't you have like wildfires last January and February?
Thank you. By the way, which one of you is which? One is Tom. Which is Tom?
Me.
You're Tom, and what you're?
I'm Jamie.
Jamie and Tom. Thank you. Anyway, a couple of summers ago, we had the northern part of Australia was under severe flooding, and Victoria and parts of New South Wales were just on fire.
Yeah.
So we had both extremes. No, we're either burning down or we're under deep water. And we're not
bonkers, isn't it?
Like the cyclones and everything in America, or their storms have gone absolutely beyond, as well as, of course, England. And here's now all listeners or viewers, whichever way you shake it, when they announced that big storm that you just had in England, 5 or 6 people died. All of them were in vehicles. I'm telling you, when there's a storm and, when they announce it and they say, stay inside, it doesn't mean, I must get home now and stay inside. It means wherever the hell you are, you stay inside. If you're in a shop, if you're in a suit, the petrol, just stay where you are. All of them died in their cars. And when I'm in America and these incredible blasts go through, which it's happened before. I was in Houston, Texas, and when my phone suddenly sounded like a nuclear, explosion. They send these amazing, I don't know if you get them in England, but if you're in America, all cell phones suddenly go, yip, 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 which is really effective. And it said extreme, storm warning, hurricanes coming, flooding. And I was on the 17th floor of a hotel with Pat Quinn, actually. We were doing a Rocky Horror thing. And Pat quickly phoned me and said, do you think we're safe? And I said, well, you're on the 18th floor. I'm on the 17th floor. I think we are. And I thought the whole thing was a bit of a, joke that we'd got these extreme. I woke up, 10 people in Houston had drowned overnight.
Bloody hell.
And you can be in a 4-wheel drive car, and if you drive through this much water with like a river or creek over, that much water will float a 2-ton car. By the way, I'm gesturing about in inches. It's about at the most 6 inches at the most, because of course you think you can drive through that, but what happens if that much water lifts? If the whole car, like 4 wheels are in that, it just lifts the car up and floats it straight into the disastrous river, creek, whatever. And like a woman going into an underpass drowned. Just went under a little bridge, and the water had filled. She drowned going through.
Oh my
bloody hell!
Anyway, So for heaven's sake, just always stay where you are. If you're in a car, get to the closest place you can pull over and just stay in your car. Don't drive anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the Nell Campbell warnings of the morning.
I
know. Nell Campbell's become such a crashing bore. And she still loves her Vegemite, like Warnie. Okay, here's another thing. Darlings, I will get off my soapbox at some point in this interview. Here's the other thing. Just got to have a bite of my Vegemite on toast, which was Shane Warne's last meal. Shane Warne, cricket player, age 52.
52, yeah.
Never took drugs, was not a drug taker. He wasn't a big boozer. Yes, you always often saw him celebrating with a beer in his hand. He wasn't a big boozer, his manager said. I love a drink, but he wasn't an alcoholic What he was a big smoker. He was a heavy smoker. I'm telling you, I've lost more friends to cigarettes than, any drugs or alcohol. Please, Rocky Horror Darling fans, and even anyone that stumbled across this podcast, do not smoke cigarettes. They are the worst thing you can do for your health.
Absolutely.
They really are.
Couldn't agree any more on that one.
Yeah, so that is why we've lost Warnie, aged 52.
52 is nuts.
It's just,
yeah.
It's one of those things that came through. And I was like, really? Like, are you sure? Is this real?
I woke at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom, as one does, and I don't know about you, but I pretty much check my the news on my iPhone every couple of hours at the least, to see if we're at nuclear war. I'm just waiting for the next escalation. Anyway, so I go online. I go online to the Guardian, and it says, so I see Shane Warne, 52, dead. And I think, he must have just tweeted about that other famous cricketer that just died 3 days before he died, a really famous older Australian cricketer.
Yeah,
died.
I can't remember the name.
And I, the way they sometimes go, tribute by, and I was like, no, wait. I just couldn't get my head around it. Couldn't get back to sleep. I couldn't, it's ridiculous it's amazing how much everyone was affected by it, and so shocked.
Yeah, because I'm not even a cricket fan. I don't apologise. You're okay. You can say whatever you like here now. Let's go nuts. It's all good.
But hold on. As I was saying to you earlier, I wanted my cat is trying to have my Vegemite on toast. All creatures love salt, don't you reckon?
Yes.
So you can get salt licks for birds. Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer salt over sugar. But anyway, yeah. Here's something my mother said. My mother had 4 brothers, and she grew up in the country in Australia, and she, all her life, and when Foxtel, with the Foxtel sports station, arrived in the 80s, her life was just complete, because she could follow globe. She knew everything about soccer, AFL's football, all the variations of football, tennis, golf, cricket. I mean, she was so, and she said to me once, the more you know about something, the more interesting it is. And as a kid growing up, and Mum would go off to all these, football matches and cricket matches and stuff, I wasn't interested. And then the World Cup was on when she was staying with me in New York once, and watching it with her, because she knows all the great expressions. In cricket too, they've got wonderful expressions.
Yeah. When
someone tricked something with the ball, anyway, she brought the whole thing to life. And so I now certainly follow soccer. And was always fun to watch football with her. But I never quite really wrapped my head around the subtleties of cricket. But I want to do it because it's just another thing to enjoy in life. I love music, reading, art. Think of the things you love. You can stretch yourself into things you don't necessarily think you'd love But once you start learning about it, it's like, you know what, that's really interesting. I mean, let's face it, David Attenborough's done that with nature.
Yeah, oh yes.
Oh yeah.
You know, so many people, like, if you said to somebody, I just want to tell you something about these animals that live under, you know, that live in the sea, these particular, and that they go, sweet darling, pour me another drink, and, you know, let's talk about, I don't know, whatever. Like, let's play a video game. So, no, really, it's incredible. Wait till you see. But that's what I mean. It's presented to you in a way. It's like, I cannot believe that fish just did that. Like, have you seen My Octopus Professor? I think it's called My Octopus Professor. It's a documentary. Oh my God. Now, where is the guy? He's somewhere in the water, is bloody cold. Anyway, he grew up there and he always goes, he dives, not with a tank. He's a, what do you call it? Not scuba, snorkel.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he met an octopus. Well, he's a filmmaker. Anyway, he made this documentary about the octopus, and that it became his friend and all the behavior of the octopus. And I'm telling you, it is a superb film. Okay, so I think it's called My Octopus Professor, something like that. Check it out.
I'll have to see that out. My wife loves octopus, so I'll have to search that.
Oh my God.
Her,
I don't touch, I'll never eat an octopus. And by the way, yes, the sharks in Australia. Oh my God. You know, an English guy got eaten by a shark just off of Sydney Beach, the beach that my sister and her husband swim at most days. Yeah, this guy, he was ocean swimming, which means he swam off the rocks, not off the beach. So he was right away further out. And it turns out that where he was swimming, the formation of the rocks somehow make a sort of, there's a pool or something that all these fish love this area. And then that area drops off dramatically into very deep water. And so the sharks in the deep water realize they can, they catch the fish anyway, go for the fish there. Well, this lovely English guy who was training to do a charity swim the following weekend fucking got this, and this guy was fishing on the rocks, like, 20 yards from the guy or 10 yards. And he said it looked like a car had suddenly landed in the ocean. This great white shark, which was like, I don't know if you're in feet still, right? It was like, 15 feet long or something. It just shot out of the water with the guy in its mouth. And, and then they just crashed down, which he said looked like a car landing, and just chomped the guy up in front of him. And yes, he did. He did film it.
Fuck.
Mental checklist: never go swimming in the Australian Ocean. Sorted.
No. It's so goddamn rare. But my point comes back to climate change. The water is getting warmer, and the sharks are coming closer in. But here's what I want you to know. Number one, sharks don't like eating humans. This guy was wearing a wetsuit. We hear it a million times. They think you're a seal.
Yeah.
They mistake you for a seal. But more importantly, they're hungry. Now, why? Because all the oceans are being overfished. I mean, if I don't even eat, I only eat wild fish now, and I don't even have fish that often. The Japanese, of course, are just crazy fish eaters. All the oceans are being overfished. Why is it legal to have those long nets that they fish with, that they, scoop up sharks and dolphins in? Anyway, exactly that is another thing that's got to be controlled, because the sharks aren't getting enough to eat, because they don't like eating humans. And this was the first attack off a Sydney beach in 60 years.
Oh my days.
Yeah, we don't get shark. You see them, but they don't bite people. I mean, obviously that's when they occasionally do bite surfers, but they usually bite them and then they get banged on, they disappear. They don't want to eat. They don't like I'm not quite sure what the equivalent. I don't know. It would be like, do you want to eat a hedgehog? No.
Oh.
I mistook that hedgehog for a roast chicken, but then once I'd been like, no, that's not interested. But meanwhile, you've been maimed for life. So, but if there was enough hedgehog food out there, I mean, whatever. No, sorry, if there was enough you get my drift.
Yeah.
So and people that are scared. But when Steven Spielberg's film Jaws came out, you cannot believe how that affected Australian swimmers. Everyone would swim in a sort of straight line. No one wanted to be the furthest one out in the beach, in the water. And it's like, if a shark was coming in, it doesn't actually go for which is the furthest one.
Yeah.
Anyway, but enough about that. So where do we go from here?
So what we do, Nell, is I ask you how the last 2 years have been for you, how your pandemic season has been, because obviously COVID is still a thing, but people say it's calming down, I think. I don't think it's as rife as it was.
I feel I must quote the comic writer Gary Janetti here, who posted on Instagram a few days ago, wasn't that 5 minutes great between COVID and World War III?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Painfully accurate.
Yeah, so I am 100% blessed in the COVID lockdown department. Number one, I'm in Australia, where we have arguably the highest quality of life, and we should be letting in as many refugees as want to come here. I feel we should. Our revoltingly conservative government doesn't. And when Djokovic, was thrown into that hotel, when he tried to come into play, open, unvaxxed, he was thrown into a hotel where Syrian refugees had been forced to live and was still living for 9 years. They've been in that hotel, and he didn't use that as he didn't get on his soapbox and say, okay, whatever, because he was an idiot to come thinking he was going to be, I don't care what anyone said to him. He shouldn't, no one's been allowed into Australia. They've been so strict for 2 years. We haven't been able to leave, and only, you were very lucky to get in. So, but he should have, made global awareness of the fact that they have made these Syrian refugees live in a really trashy hotel. They can't go out. They've been in there 9 years. I think it's called imprisonment, right? Anyway, I am blessed to live in a beautiful house with a big garden in a lovely suburb where we could walk. We didn't have in some, I know that in many European countries, and particularly where everyone's living chock-a-block on top of each other in, cities like New York, London, in Italy, in France, everywhere. In the cities, it was particularly hard because you don't have any kind of outside of your own.
Yeah.
Mm. And in New York, you can walk for 1 hour. Well, I lived in New York 20 years, and you do. I love that in New York, particularly, it's very much a walking city, because it's being an island. Manhattan's so small, you can you walk all the time everywhere. London's much sprawlier, so you don't walk everywhere. But you're in a bloody concrete urban jungle. They've got canyons of buildings. It's hardly nature. So for 2 years, that was anyone's walk.
Yeah.
But in Australia, I'm walking, my neighbour, I can walk through bushland. I live 10 minutes or 15 minutes from leaving my car to being sitting in the Sydney Opera House. I'm right in the city. Wow. I'm not, but my view is I'm in the countryside because I overlook, a bushland reserve. And I can walk through the reserve, through the bush, down to the harbour, which is absolutely beautiful. So I've got all different beautiful walks I can do. I live on my own, with now 2 cats, but for the last 2 years, 1 cat. I'm very good on my own because I I'm a voracious, well, not a voracious. I love reading. I also love reading. Both my parents were journalists. I'm a huge newspaper addict, which I read online. I garden. I'm even more blessed. I have a saltwater, solar heated swimming pool.
No way.
Nice.
Yeah. I'll show it to you in a sec. So I don't swim. I mean, I swim for about probably 4 or 5 months of the year, and it's incredibly warm in those months. So I've been able, I'm just bloody lucky. So, and I'm not a materialistic person, but but my quality of life, I'm happy with, like brown rice and vegetables and tofu and 2 glasses of wine and, the streaming services and fabulous YouTube. I'm fascinated by true crime.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. My thing is I'm a bit like, do you know the writer Patricia Highsmith, who wrote The Incredible Mr. Ripley and Carol, which is on TV at the moment, and Strangers on a Train. Anyway, I'm interested in the psychology of the killer and tracking down killers, how they track people, the detective work. So I love watching those. I love Scandi thrillers and dramas. I love traveling through the television set. I watch lots of Korean K-dramas, they're called now, not Squid Game. I don't like violence at all. Even in the true crime, I don't want to know about how many, stab wounds, and I don't want to know any of the grisly stuff. It's all that's in the mind of and how they track them. And also on that subject, the police department, the police, teachers and nurses, all these people should be paid much more money.
Agreed.
They're all seriously underpaid. And, because I've been saying that for years. And then someone told me recently they brought some expert to Australia to help the police thing. And they said the first thing you've got to do is pay them more. I mean, that just helps with them not becoming corrupt. I mean, they're dealing with, drug dealers. Okay, number one, all drugs have to be legalized. All of them. We need to decriminalize drugs. All drugs, no matter how bad they are considered, they must be legal, because otherwise, I mean, you can empty most of the American prisons.
Oh yeah, fair point. Yeah.
And if you think of prohibition in the 30s in America, you do realize you have to be 21 to be legally allowed to drink in America.
Yeah.
By then you're looking at your pension,
I've never understood that one. Why 21?
Because they are, how controlling is that? I mean, isn't it 16 in France and Italy in places? It's 18 in Australia.
It's 18 here as well. I'm not sure about France and Italy.
I think it might be younger there. But of course, you can be sent to war at 18 in America. You can be in the army and sent off to Iraq for a totally unreasonable war. But you have to be 18. But the fact is, there's up near, 4 minutes walk from me is a liquor store. Do I go up there and buy 6 bottles of whiskey and come and drink them because it's available up the street?
No.
Does a 20-year-old kid do that? If I want to buy some heroin or crack or cocaine, MDMA, I can find out where to get it in about 4 minutes. And I would say, first of all, I could get someone to deliver it in 5, or I could go and buy it in 5. Wherever you are, where you guys live, we all know that. I have a 23-year-old daughter. So I'm fully aware of how, she had an excellent service in New York for her pot. they come round and they open these bulletproof suitcases that it's all in sponge. It's got all the different variations. And do you want something that, I want to be able to function in the morning, but sleep well, but just take the pressure off the day. They have every kind of marijuana for every need. It's just nuts. Then they have all the edibles. It was just brilliant. I mean, soft drugs. Okay, I want my darling fans, or the listeners, and if you're Rocky Horror fans, I wasted 10 years of my life in London. I drank alcohol, but hardly ever bought it. I hardly drank in between 20 and 30. But I smoked hashish every night. That was my thing. And, I think it's great getting high sometimes, but it does take away any ambition. I always got the munchies and ate minimum half a loaf of bread as toast with
Vegemite, yeah,
or the top quality peanut butter, as in the just ground peanuts. And so even though I'm not against those drugs, and it's great they are becoming marijuana and edibles, and it's great now that they take the that they take the sort of trippy part out of it. The ICG, the JKO. I know everyone
HCA,
whatever it is,
TC,
you can get.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
the TC. That's it.
ECO. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, which is great because I do think. I was never an anxious person, but as I've gotten older, I've become anxious. My mother and sister have a bit of anxiety, and we all know now that so many people have anxiety, and I take a daily drug for it, which helps enormously, which comes under the umbrella of an antidepressant, but I'm not a depressed person at all, as you can tell. Va, 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 boom. But, I do... I think that there are certain edibles which can help in that regard too. Well, they're not legal in Australia, so I don't come across them. But my friends in America now, particularly in California, in New York, you need to have a sort of a permission. You've got to have your doctor give you a license basically to go into the shops that sell them, which are like going into top grade pharmacies. Everyone's wearing a white coat. And the things that like on a glass shelf, it's so chic. It's like Stanley Kubrick designed the place. Fabulous. And I went in there with my friend. They have a security guard at the door. I went in there with her, and she had to sort of convince them to let her be allowed to bring me in. And there was an Hasidic Jew couple in there, which was just so fabulous. Like the guy, he had the major hat, the ringlets. She had the wig, the dress down to her calves. And I thought, how fucking great that these guys are using this, or I suppose alternative medicine is how people consider it. But that should be legal everywhere. Anyway, I know I'm droning on again, but my point is everyone can get hold of drugs if they want them. Just because you can have them available like liquor doesn't mean you're going to abuse it if you're not into it. You know what I mean? Like you don't. Yeah. I'm not going to go and buy crack just because it's for sale up the road.
Yeah, okay, completely get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So by decriminalizing it, look how many Black people would be bloody, because the whole racist thing in America is still so prominent, I think, and that's a fast way for them to earn money, and they get such long prison sentences, and whoever comes out of prison reformed, because that's another thing that needs to be way, they need to rethink the whole prison system.
Yeah, a lot needs doing.
So that's another area I'm on my soapbox about. That you've got to help prisoners, not make it worse. And also, God, do you know what? In the paper I was reading last night in America, where I was reading the New York Times, I think it was either the Times or the Guardian, and a kindergarten teacher in Ohio or somewhere was attacked by a 5-year-old, and yes, they had to come in and take her out on a stretcher. The police will be considering the pressing charges of injury, to this 5-year-old kid.
What?
I mean, it's getting out, yeah. But some kid, who was it? Some kid that I just read too, a 17-year-old kid just in America who had a fixation with what's he called? The famous serial killer.
There's loads.
Bundy?
I don't know.
Bundy, yeah. Bundy.
Oh, good guess.
17. Anyway, he, stabbed, got some poor girl and stabbed her 100 times. He's just been given life in prison without the option of parole, with no parole. Really? I mean, the guy's obviously got serious mental issues. That's where we start there. And you show me any sort of serial killer or so many killers, show me the ones, and I'm not talking about the husband that kills his wife, but that's had a happy childhood. They have never had happy childhoods. And on that subject, and I'm not saying that doesn't, apologize, that doesn't redeem them from what they're doing. But I think you have to go, like, for a 17-year-old kid who obviously he needs to have mental help. He should be going to an institution, and for no possibility of ever seeing light. I mean, of course he did an absolutely terrible thing, but I think and also when refugees, for instance, in England, I sometimes read about a young refugee, will stab somebody, and they get thrown in jail, obviously practically forever. You have to take into consideration they have often seen their whole family slaughtered in front of them. People have lost their sense of reason and what's right and wrong. They're in England. You've got all this needs to be taken into consideration, and they have to be treated for their mental health. That's my feeling.
So, can't argue against it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Right. Shall we actually talk about Rocky Horror, as we've mentioned
absolutely.
it a couple of times? So
yeah, never heard of it.
Never heard of it. So obviously this whole story started for you when you were 18 and you moved to London. What made you make the move to London in the first place?
My father was a journalist, and he was sent there for 6 months to write from London. So he and my mother, my sister, who was 7 years younger than me, making her 11, and I went to London for 6 months. I knew I wouldn't be coming back. And my older sister, who was 6 years older than me, had just moved to London a few months before. So we were all over there. And my brother, 3 years older than me, had just got a scholarship at university and had just moved into a university dorm. So he's the one, he didn't come because he was studying. But that's why I went to London. And the rest is history.
So when I was doing my research for this, I read that you were working like in cafes and selling clothes in markets. Did I read correctly? You were selling clothes next to Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, we were both working in. He had a stall in Kensington Market, and that was his own stall, and I was working in the stall opposite, selling not remade 1940s dresses in that style, in old fabric that an Australian girl designed. I mean, the stalls, were the size of a dining room table. And I was bored out of my mind. Anyway, Freddie would be in absolute, he was selling mostly boot, like those, Mr. Freedom boots, with platform boots with stars and all this stuff on them, rainbows and things. Anyway, he wore most incredibly tight trousers, I remember, and he would talk about his band, and I was like, keep your day job, Freddie. So anyway, he was a total darling, and people I didn't know him as the years went on, but people I knew that were friends of his, he was apparently incredibly generous and just the most fabulous guy.
It's just amazing. I was just reading earlier and just went, worked in a market next to Freddie Mercury. Next, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I just skipped past that.
I know. It's funny, isn't it? And also, my first flat in London that I had with my sister when our parents left was Christine Keeler and Mandy Rice Davies' old flat. Do you know who that they are? The
name sounds familiar.
Oh, well, when later when we finished, look up the Profumo affair on the anyway, it was a big 1960s political scandal which brought down the government. But anyway,
wow.
That out, yeah. And the two girls that were part of it, Christine Keeler and Mandy Rice Davies, who were 18 and 19, had lived in that flat. Anyway, so but carry on with your questions. I'm sorry I bang on and divert.
No, but that's what we're here for.
This is one of the downsides of living by yourself. You get some innocent listener like yourselves who are trapped, and I just bang on about all my.
We love it.
This is Tallulah, my other cat. Hello, Tallulah.
Hello, Tallulah. So how do you go from selling clothes in Kensington Market then to performing on stage in the Rocky Horror? So, was this like you went to audition?
Just who you sleep with, you know what I mean? Sleep with the right people.
That's where I've gone wrong.
Okay. By the way, my recommendation to anyone listening is that don't sleep with the director or the producer. You sleep with the casting director. Because they bring you out. The director's not going to put you in because he's sleeping with you. The casting director will put you in front of, get you into the audition. No, Jim, as well as waitressing and working in Kensington Market, I was busking in the street, tap dancing and singing. And Jim Sharman, who had directed the huge hit of Jesus Christ Superstar, which was on at the moment, a guy in the show called Richard O'Brien had bought him this little cassette to listen to and said, I think it was only just one or two songs at first, said, I've, written this little musical. Here's a couple of songs and I'd like you to direct it. Anyway, sorry, I'm using a kerchief. So Jim saw me busking in the street, singing 1930s songs, dressed as a boxer in my Lonsdale shorts and singlet and everything, and cast me. He came to the cafe I was working at, which was next door to Scotch House? It was called Scotch House, which was just up the road from on Old Brompton Road, just up the road from Harrods. This posh boy owned a cafe called Smalls, and I was a soda jerk there. And I would just out of boredom, I would tap dance and sing and play 1930s music. And Jim Sharman came in with Richard O'Brien, who wrote Rocky Horror, and Richard Hartley, who was the musical director. And Jim said, would you like to be in this musical we're doing? It's going to be on Tiny Theatre. And I was going to get we all got paid £18 a week, which was, you could live on everything. That's another thing that's changed. So, and I feel so much for young people. In the old days, this is 1973, you could live on £18 a week. My flat that I shared with my sister, a 1-bedroom flat, nice sitting room, right near West Kensington Station, that was £14 a week. So we split that. So £7 went to my rent. And then to go to work usually cost, I think it was 22p on the buses. And you could even afford to I would take taxis sometimes. They probably cost like, £1.20 or something. I'm telling you, we used to live off Irish sausages, grilled Irish sausages and toast. We didn't go to restaurants. Who cares about restaurants? We had our hashish We had our, we'd get around on the buses and the tube. And now, of course, you'd have to live, 30 miles out of the city. And that's the same in New York. When I lived in New York and I was doing whatever I was doing, you would live right near the restaurant. You'd live 2 blocks from the restaurant you were working in. Now they have to change subway trains about 4 times to get home.
Yeah,
it makes such a difference that it was everything was easier then.
Yeah, I went to London last week, the week before, and the tubes are mad, and it's so expensive. It's like £10 for the day, I think it was.
How did you get from Wales? Did you catch the train?
No, I'm Birmingham, he's Wales, but yeah, I got the train.
Yeah, and let's talk about that price.
I think it was £60 for a return for the 2 of us, and that was a good price.
That is a good price. I remember someone come for the weekend. I was visiting London some years ago, come for the weekend to Gloucestershire. And I remember I went to buy my ticket. That's £70 return. What? That's 70. I could not believe I was going 2 hours on a train. It was going to cost £70. Because in America, for instance, that would cost $40, which was about £22 or something. Well, it would have been about 20, whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah. A fraction. That you see, and also the way pension or whatever, age 64, everyone gets to ride free, don't they, on the underground?
Don't know.
Rich people don't. I think you get. That's one of the good things, or you get some incredible discount.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think it's insane, and we're all going to be very affected by this war in the Ukraine, food prices, because I heard the BBC, and anyone listening, and particularly if you live outside England, BBC iPlayer on the app is just incredible. And BBC 4 has so much coming from the Ukraine. They've got all these experts on everything and interviewing people, there and in Russia, everywhere. The whole thing is covered rivetingly. The whole food, Ukraine is like one of the bread baskets, as they call it, for Europe. It's where all the wheat grows, which everything. And apparently once one thing, it's the snowball effect, of course, naturally the petrol coming out of Russia. And let's bravo to the English dockers who refused to unload the oil. Did you know about that?
Nope.
Yeah, no, I think I saw that, yeah.
4 days ago, the ship's dockers working on the docks, the Russian ships came, the oil ships arrived with Russian oil that they then, bring in, however they do it, probably put it into trucks, and they all refused to unload it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So fabulous. And fuck you, Boris Johnson, for even allowing it. And also, how come Abramovich hasn't been sanctioned already? It's like, he's selling Chelsea, he's just sold Chelsea Football Club and blah, 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 in case he gets. So I just don't understand. I think England's been incredibly weak about it. Anyway, moving swiftly on, where did I get, what led me to that? Ask me any questions about Rocky Horror you want.
Well, I was going to say, what were your first thoughts when you read the script? Because it's pretty out there, let's be fair.
Well, you see, I mean, Americans always say, oh, wow, what did you think? No, it's like, it was absolutely nothing to us. Nothing. I mean, when I say that, no one was the slightest bit scandalized or anything. It was 1973. I mean, I think that, to me, the hippest, I hate that term hip. And by the way, darling listeners or whatever, those listening to this podcast, never try and be hip. It's just a total waste of time. Why would you bother? And just never try, just be your own person, and don't try and look like Kim Kardashian, and don't do all the plastic surgery, and forget about that. Be the best person you can be. And I've always done my own thing. If I look back on photographs of me when I was 17, 18, all the way through, I never go, oh my God, I can't believe I wore that, because I've never followed fashion. Yes, I am a confident person. I was born confident. One of my sisters was born not confident. So you just don't know which way it's going to swing, right? But even if you're not confident, take a good look at yourself in the mirror and work out what I'm going to sell. If you've got big tits, sell them. Wear fabulous outfits, push those bosoms up, go for it. You know, if you've got great legs, wear your mini skirts and stuff. But if you haven't got great legs, then don't wear that sort of thing. Look at what you've got to sell and sell it. And don't worry about following fashion. Just, wear what suits you, and haircuts, and just do your own thing, and basically don't dream it, be it. And also, and sexually, I mean, the best thing that's come out of Rocky Horror, and as you know, as I can let you know and assure you, continues to come out of Rocky Horror, is the sexual liberation. It's done, it's given, and not just sexual liberation. I think being the person you want to be and not being afraid to express yourself. Because I do these things called cameo, I make little videos for people. And I get parents of kids like 16, 18, they go, Rocky Horror is their favorite movie and it's helped them accept who they are and and I just think, it was made nearly 50 years ago, and that film is still the one that is helping young teenagers now. And it's just so great. That is the single greatest thing about Rocky Horror, that it's done that for nearly 50 years and is continuing to do so. Other than, and this wasn't in the original play, other than you see Rocky chained and riffraff with a lit candelabra threatening him, which I regret that was in the film. There's nothing unkind or nasty about Rocky Horror. No. Yes, he goes, send out the dogs, whatever, but you know what I mean? It's not it's not violent. Yes, okay, yes, Eddie does get, there is that. But you sort of, I don't know, at the end of the day, it's fun and funny, and it doesn't take itself seriously. The songs are all great. All these things contribute to why it is still as loved all these years later. This is what I think.
Like you say, that there's so many different things about it. It hits on so many different levels. Like my 4-year-old is obsessed with the time warp. Like she's always doing the dance, asking me to play it. I'm like, you're never watching the film. Not till you're a lot older, but
no. Look at me. She's getting a bit too old for her first screening of that. You should have been showing her the whole film since she was 1. Okay?
Okay. I'll sit her down and I'll make her.
Okay. Is this your first child?
No.
Okay. You look so young. Anyway, here's the deal. Kids love that movie. What they don't understand, the bits that you're concerned about, it just goes straight over their head. And anyway, the younger they are to see men with men, women with women, whatever, the better it is, because they've got to see this is completely normal. There is nothing in that film that a child can't see, because I just think it broadens their horizons. And your 4-year-old watching that film is not going to say, wait a minute, Dad, why is Brad suddenly interested in, why is Frank, you know what I mean?
You're right, to fair, yeah. I might sit down and let her watch it now. That's what they're watching
it for. And now, here's the great story about the time warp. When we were rehearsing, Richard O'Brien was adding songs as we went along. Well, he was like, yes, he was. And we had a 3-week rehearsal. And Jim Sharman, the director, had seen a French movie, it was an old French movie that had gangsters in it that were in a bar. And one of them went and put a record on the jukebox, and a song came on, and the gangsters in their suits lined up and started doing a dance together, the same moves, a specific dance. And Jim said to Richard, I want you to write a song that there is a specific, that there's a specific dance, and it's about the dance, right? So Richard went home and wrote the Time Warp, and with his wife they invented the dance, the Time Warp, and he arrived the next day with the song the Time Warp, including a tap break for me, because I tap danced then, and like no one tap danced then, but because I tap danced, he gave me a tap solo in it.
That's amazing. But
it's just so great. And that's why children love it, because it's like, it's telling you what to do, you know, put your hands on your hips, bring your knees in tight, the pelvic, you know, so they can sing it and do it. Bite of toast.
Come on, I'll edit it out. I'll edit out your bite of toast. Don't you worry.
Go for it. Go for it.
Get it in.
Every time tell me something. Who watches a podcast? How does that go? Do most people listen to your podcast, or do people actually watch it?
People actually watch it more than they listen
so
to
I
it.
could eat this really nice and in a very delicate fashion.
Yeah. Just get it in your face now. Just get it in your face. What?
It is so humid with this rain that we've had, that since I sat down and started talking to you, my toast has gone from crisp to soggy.
Oh, no.
That is how, it's limp.
I'm sorry we gave you limp toast.
Can you believe it? I'm going to have to whack that stuff back in the oven and crisp the bitch up. Anyway, so that's the story. And everybody, please, I mean, people come when I appear at conventions and the mothers go, oh, she started watching it when she was 12 or something. And I went, well, why the hell didn't you let her watch it earlier? It's not, you know, it's not a porn film. Everything is it's all quite sort of not almost naive, almost. And also because we still, even though, thank God, same-sex marriage is legal, it's still, kids need to be reminded.
Yeah,
it's just as normal to be homosexual, to you know, and also that it's not a choice. Now, with my as I mentioned earlier, I love watching K dramas, and as I say, not Squid Game and not the out there ones. My first one was Crash Landing on You, which is set between North Korea and South Korea. And of course they had to be really polite about North Korea so they wouldn't get bombed. Because you know how, remember when what was called The Interview?
Yeah.
I still can't believe that film. You know, if ever Kim Jong-un wanted to prove he didn't have a sense of humor, I mean, could he beyond? Anyway, so I decided to read about, you know, some of the actors, and one of them I noticed wasn't married. I mean, he seems gay. Well, there's a detective show called Stranger, and the actor is unbelievable in it. I'm mad about the lead actor, right? So I was reading about him. He couldn't be more straight in it. And I was reading about him, and it said he's a singer as well as an actor, and he starred in the Korean production of Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
That's amazing.
Well, I had to literally, it was like hearing Shane Warne is dead at 52, you know. I had to wrap he plays the straightest, you know, but he's got this really charismatic. And I was like, that is the great, literally, it's the equivalent, of course, of playing Frankenfurter. Anyway,
I love the fact there's a Korean version of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That alone is amazing.
I love it. I love that show. Anyway, so then I started Googling about being gay in Korea, and it's you do not come out. No. It is so repressed. Isn't that so sad?
It's backwards.
I mean, honestly, it seems naive of me, but I was shocked that they absolutely, no one wants to come out as gay if they're in, it's general, you know. Anyway,
absolutely backwards.
Yeah. So that's why children need to see it, and I just want everybody to come out, and it's incredible too how few sports stars come out, and completely applaud any that do come out, and actors. We need all the famous people that are gay. Darling Oprah Winfrey has not come out. I so wish she would come out.
I didn't know she was, but there we go.
Yeah. It's just so America is fucked. Basically, America will never recover ever. I don't think. They are so far gone. It's insane.
I know. And you know why? This is where it starts. The education system.
Yes.
They are so badly educated. That's, if you disregard Boston, Los Angeles, New York, Washington, San Francisco, and, a few other, I don't know if you can include New Orleans, but if you take those cities away, which tend to be Democrat, the cities that vote for the Democrats, I mean, you've got this huge number, all those Trump voters, and they're so badly educated. I mean, apparently, years ago, I read in the New York Times that the average 12-year-old, English child, their speaking sentences were something like 4 times more complicated than the equivalent of an American child. I mean, you can hear it just when you listen to the BBC compared to even anywhere. It's just one of those things. The English do have that, and obviously the English and the Irish do seem to have. To me, they're very articulate. They love words.
Yeah.
Anyway, I so much in life does come down to education. And that is where. And I mean, in England, I feel first. I think the monarchy should go. I think when the Queen dies. It doesn't need to be a big deal. And I think Prince Charles is going to do his best to sort of obviously retain it, but bring it down to, minimal. I mean, it's just a joke. I think he should totally stop people bowing, all that bowing and scraping and yes and no. And of course, but the English, it's so genetically in the English now that people that what used to be referred to as the working classes, but the further you are from the royal family, the more people they like to bow and curtsy and all that stuff to the royal family. It's a joke. It's like, are you kidding? This guy happened to be born to this woman. And then look at people like bloody Prince Andrew. The guy is, even if he hadn't done everything he did with Epstein's poor girls, he was still as loathsome as anything could be. He's a loathsome person. And anyway, but the monarchy, well, I just think it should be dissolved. But I think, I mean, obviously they won't. And Australia definitely, as I say, we shouldn't be part of the Commonwealth. And oh yes, I could go on and on. But it all seems a joke. I don't know how I got onto that, but I could say a lot. I don't want to bore anyone. Go on. I know, I keep saying that. Anyway, carry on. Ask me what questions you'd like.
So, obviously, the stage show was a massive success. It then turned into a movie in, 2 years? So,
we made the movie a year later. I think it probably came out.
So that's nuts.
It's going from a tiny theatre. Let's face it, isn't it? Well, it is and it isn't sad, but it would have been great to have done a follow-up movie very quickly afterwards.
But I was going to mention that. I've got that written down. Obviously, they did Shock Treatment, which was sort of kind of not really a sequel.
Well, here's the Shock Treatment when. Because it makes me sad about Shock Treatment. Jim Sharman wanted Tim to star in it. And he said no. So that was the first big disappointment. And he also asked Susan Sarandon, and she said no. So those of us that still wanted to be in it were in it. And I think it's got so many great songs, and it looks fabulous. That's the brilliant Brian Thompson, the set designer, and he and Jim work brilliantly together. But frankly, I find it very confusing. and I don't like the lead girl. I feel badly. I'm sure she's not that she'd probably care that I say it, but I don't. Jessica Harper. I mean, there's something about all the Rocky Horror characters. Everyone loves them, even if it's like dull Brad, you know. But like, is anyone going to make a fuss about Jessica Harper? No, she just didn't have it. Because Jim Sharman was brilliant at casting people, and I think there's one guy in that's really good, and I don't even remember his name. But to me, it doesn't work. I know I'm thrilled a lot of people love it, but it's too complicated. There's something rather simple about the whole. I mean, a lot happens in Rocky Horror, but it's quite a simple scenario. Simple. Yeah. And also many people point out that it is what's the Jim Carrey film when his life is being filmed for
The Truman Show.
The Truman Show, directed by Peter Weir. That it was that idea before the Truman Show, but somehow I think there's too many characters, and that's my feeling about it. It's got a lot going for it, and a couple of guys got permission about 5 years ago from Richard O'Brien to rewrite it and put it on in London on stage. And it was called Shock Treatment, and I think it had all the same songs, but it was different. They fine-tuned the plot. Yeah. Big hit. Richard didn't give permission for it to transfer to the West End. It was a big, because that show potentially with so many good songs. I mean, to me, you go to things like even what's the one about the ballet dancer that any musical that Elton John wrote the music for?
Oh, Billy something.
Billy
Elliot.
Billy Elliot. I mean, there's not a song in that I remember. And then any musical that he's done the music for, any song he writes for himself is brilliant. They're all forgettable. And the same with Andrew Lloyd. Andrew Lloyd Webber writes one good song in every musical has one song and the rest is junk. But Rocky Horror and Shock Treatment have lots of good songs. And the song's almost the hardest part. It's like Mamma Mia is all good songs and appalling story. That's just me, of course, one of the biggest money spinners ever. But what a mess. Anyway, yeah.
I agree to that.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's got such potential to be a big hit musical again. And anyway, so it's really sad because I think he went to it and loved it. But I don't know if it's because Rocky Horror was also on at the time, but I don't know. I'm in touch with Richard a lot. I should just ask him why he didn't, but anyway. Speaking
of like redoing of things of Richard's properties, did you ever see the remake of Rocky Horror from 2016?
No, I haven't seen it. No. And at this stage, I don't want to see it because I know everyone wants to know my opinion. And I think that, one of the producers, Lou Adler, who's the person responsible for Richard, Richard doesn't make money from the film. He's screwed him totally.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he makes, anyway, that's why Richard has nothing to do with any publicity to do with the film or whatever. It's really sad. He makes money from the play, and I mean, I'm sure he has a great income, but nothing like what he should get. We don't make any money. We don't make any money from it either. We don't get residuals at all.
That's nuts.
I know. Yeah, because there was no such thing when we made that movie. There weren't even videos then. There was no such thing as residuals. Anyway, this is Olive, my cat, who just wants to eat everything. Anyway, he's a kitten. Anyway, so hold on, Lou Adler. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah, I think because the film is so iconic, you're never going to. I don't really know what the point was doing a new version of it. So there are some things. It's like let's remake Gone with the Wind. Really?
Why?
I mean, it's got such a. Let's do E.T. I mean, just think of any sort of iconic movie. Why would you do another version of it? And just because you've got a real transsexual starring in it, that's not the fucking point. And
Nope.
and most of the fans didn't like it because why would they?
I couldn't finish it.
People playing those roles.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm not really sure why he did it. Obviously, the only reason he does anything is to make more money.
Now, before we start wrapping up, because obviously I know you need to go, but I did just want to touch on, obviously, you can't talk about Rocky Horror without talking about one of the key cast members, and obviously someone you worked incredibly closely with, and that's Eddie Meatloaf.
Oh, the darling Meat.
How was he to work with? Like, I can only imagine you had such a great time.
Meat was just the most divine guy. He was bright. He was so bright, and yet there was something very childlike about him. I've said it before, but he was sort of like a big baby, and always enthusiastic and up for anything. And he was like a big an innocent guy. And it's just like, I still can't quite get my head around him dying. I used to see him very regularly prior to COVID. And anyway, that was just so bloody sad. But he was such a great guy. He had the voice, of an angel. And I suppose he didn't really look after his health. Oh, I know why. Of course, he died because he was an anti-vaxxer. That's why. Oh. Not only was he a vocal anti-vaxxer, so it was, totally unvaxxed. He wasn't in great health, and on top of everything, he was asthmatic. I never knew he was asthmatic, but to have any lung problems whatsoever and to be unvaxxed, and I naturally, as I'm very anti-vaxxers, everyone listening, please make sure you're triple vaxxed. He was just nuts. There's a pandemic on, it affects your breathing, you're overweight, you're not in great health, you're an asthmatic, and you don't believe in getting vaxxed, and then you get COVID, and he died. Anyway, it's a bloody sad story.
It's horrible, isn't it?
And also, it didn't need to happen. It wasn't the first, it wasn't in the first round before there were vaccinations available.
No.
So anyway, because, if you get it, as you know, when you're triple vaxxed, you don't get it nearly as badly.
No.
I had it after being triple vaxxed, and it weren't that bad. So
anyway.
Obviously, life after Rocky Horror, though. You went and signed a record deal with A&M Records. Aquatic Teenage Sex Squalor is the greatest album name I've ever heard in my life. And I was listening to Stilettos and Lipstick this morning, just doing my research. I was like, wow, just started singing it all bloody day.
Stilettos and lipstick are the thing for me. Yes, well, yeah. I certainly wanted to be successful. I wanted to be successful because I loved being in show business. I loved performing, like singing and dancing and acting was my dream. But I'm really not I'm not that ambitious. And you have to be very ambitious to be successful in any career. And I'm not driven. I'm not driven. And I'd say if I have my biggest gift in life is my gift of living. I enjoy life so much, and I wanted to have an interesting life. And now, after being in the show, from busking in the streets and being a soda jerk, I was in the biggest hit show in London, the Rocky Horror Show. After 7 months, I was like, I'm so bored with doing the same old thing every night. I left it to go busking in the south of France. Yeah. That's the kind of career girl I had. I forget, I'll use this as a great, springboard to a big career. No, I disappeared into the wilderness and went busking. Because, what a great idea. I've always wanted to go to the south of France. And I also was in Paris for a while. So that was me, and that's also been me my whole life. So yes, I got this, A&M Records. I mean, an incredible record company, but I just don't think I ever took my career seriously enough. I don't take myself seriously enough. That's another thing. I said it earlier, but I want to say again, one of the charms of the film, The Rocky Horror Show, and the play is it doesn't take itself seriously. No biting your nails, young man.
Sorry.
And so I wish I had more of it. I'd love to be doing more things. At this stage, I would like to be doing things that was just me doing it, not acting necessarily in role. I mean, I'd love to do both, but I'd be very happy just being myself as I am now. Here's the torrential rain again. And but yeah, so I had, if I did it again, maybe I would have concentrated more on my career, so I would have had a longer career, because I feel I haven't done nearly enough that I would have liked to have done in my life career-wise. But, I'm also, at the same time, I very much appreciate everything I have in my life, and I focus on what I have, not what I don't have. And I emphasize that to anyone listening. And every morning you do the grateful flow, and just for 30 seconds, I so appreciate that I've got breakfast in front of me, that I can walk into my garden without a fucking missile from the Russians coming down on me. Just appreciate what you have, and try and kindness, being kind is the single most important thing. And anyone listening, if you donate £5 to the Ukrainians, everything helps, or £1, just everything adds up. And I really urge you to do that. Or, donate, old jumpers, whatever it is. It's below zero there. They've got no electricity. They've got no running water. So just do what you can. And if you've got a space, take in a refugee for a while. That includes the Syrian refugees. Anyway, so I consider myself very lucky with the life I've got, even though that, I'm someone that I would do certain things differently, but at the same time, I'm very blessed with what I have. I'm also single. I've been single for years. Ideally, yes, I'd love to have a partner. I don't. So I make the most of what my life is without a partner.
Makes sense.
So there you go.
You've done so much.
Go on. I was going to say, because I love nature and I love reading, and I said this earlier, and I love art, I love conversation, I love people, I love my cats, I love dogs. When I said earlier about the more you know about something, the more interesting it is, and the things I watch on YouTube and television, so and my voracious newspaper, all these things are so stimulating for me. I love food, and I cook, and I love to drink wine, so all these things give me great pleasure. I love yoga, so you can make your life interesting whichever way, you just got to work at it.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So
hindsight, but I'm in that regard, I'm not talking about hindsight. I'm talking about now and making the most of now. And reading, I listen to lots of Audible books too. Reading, which I know it's sort of almost, I hate saying out of fashion. It's not totally out of fashion, but I completely sympathize with young people being obsessed by screens. I'm pretty much obsessed by my phone. My iPad died on me, and I'm waiting for the next generation to arrive before not buying another one. But yeah, but but reading books takes you to other places, takes you to a different period. So I urge people to read, and it doesn't matter what you read. It doesn't matter if it's comics, just doesn't matter. But that's one of the greatest joys in my life, is reading.
what I was meant about the hindsight before was obviously you said you wished in this, that, and the other, but then everything happens for a reason.
Yes, exactly. That is how I'm in hindsight. But so many people go, I wouldn't change a thing. Yes, I would change some things. First of all, I would get out of bad relationships earlier. I think a lot of romantic relationships, most people will say, well, actually, it should have been over 2 years earlier. And I think women, particularly if they're in a relationship that is to an easy, I'll just say has died pretty much, they keep wanting to make it work.
Yeah,
I think that's a very much a female instinct. So they, I want it to get back to what it was, but it's not going to get back to what it was. And it's much better to get out of that relationship. And certainly anybody, I want to emphasize to anyone listening, if you're in a relationship and that person is making you unhappy, makes you cry, or tries to control you, or tries to bring you away from your friends and family, you must get out, because you are in a destructive relationship. And if your family and friends don't like your partner, you've got to recognize that your family and friends are the very people who want to see you happy with the best possible person. And there's a reason they don't like that person. So you don't go, can't believe, there's a very good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're in a romantic relationship, that person, each of you wants to make the other person feel more fabulous, that they're to encourage you in your career and your life. It's all plus, plus, plus. And yes, you have to compromise in relationships or whatever, but together you should be more positive about everything. Should be more positive, not someone, because men, a big personality like me, because I'm confident, men would like to put me down, for instance. I mean, I never actually had a boyfriend because I'm aware of that. No, I'm not interested in that, but that's an example of how some men can be with a confident person. I mean, and it's a male. I'm not just saying women with men and men with women as well. Just remember that a romantic relationship is supposed to totally improve the quality of your life. And if it isn't, you need to do a real rethink, and you need to take that leap and get out of the relationship.
Couldn't agree with you more, Nell.
Tom's head's going to fall off.
Agree with you more.
Yeah, and being on your own is, there's so much to enjoy. As I've just listed all the things that I enjoy, I'd much rather be on my own than have my feelings hurt.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
So now, before we wrap up, you've done so much we haven't had time to cover, like how you were a nightclub owner at one point. But what are you doing now? Are you working on anything at the moment?
I'm doing a podcast with some great guys.
Wow.
Who say we're in the UK. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Both in separate countries. Look, my divine PA, as I glamorously, she's this terrific friend who's, helping me get my house and everything together. But also, look, I'm trying, I keep saying it, and I haven't really started doing a book. I want to do that, and I want to do a one-woman show. I suppose the one-woman show would be a version almost of what we're talking about, but with I've taken photos most of my life. Sadly, not during rehearsals of Rocky. Of the original show and the film, I didn't take photos, but so much of my life I've got photos of. So I'd like to do a book and a show of that. And I also, because I so strongly want to, I really like helping people, young people that are struggling with, I don't know, their sexuality, their identity, all of those things. I very much like being in a position to talk to them and discuss those things.
That's incredible. What an absolutely wonderful human
you definitely need to write that book.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No,
I just need, I need someone that arrives on my doorstep at 9 a.m. Monday to Friday and works 8 hours with me, saying, right, today, that's what I need. I'm not disciplined enough. My younger sister, Cressida, is a very successful artist. And 7 days a week, she paints. That's what she wants to do because she's driven. That's what she wants to do. She does it every day. I wish I was like that. Anyway,
it is finding that motivation, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be very like, there's all those, I was going to say Picasso, all those people, all those really successful people are very driven. And also that's what their favorite thing to do is. Picasso, who didn't drink alcohol, he didn't want to go to parties or do all that stuff. That's my sister, that's what her favorite thing to do is. I'm going to go for a surf this morning, then I'm going to have breakfast at that fabulous cafe overlooking the beach, and then I'm going to go for a walk with. She wants to be more than anything painting, and she's got a terrific. Well, she's very talented too. She's got a great career, and has a retrospective at a major museum in Australia, the National Gallery of Australia, later this year.
Wow!
Yeah, check her out, Cressida Campbell, and my other sister's also incredibly talented. She's a textile designer and. Sally Campbell Textiles, check her out. She's got a website. My sister Cressida doesn't have a website, but you can see lots of images of her work if you Google her. And Sally Campbell, my other sister, has a great website. Sorry that I keep looking down here and carrying. I've been talking for so long. I got to get the hell out of here. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on your show.
I was going to say we're going to wrap up now anyway, so.
Yeah, good luck. You barely got a word in edgeways, but what can I tell you?
No, that's fine. This is what we're here for. People want to hear you talking, not us. We do most of that during the show anyway, so they're here for you now, not us.
Thank you, darling. I know, but they certainly weren't here for me on my soapbox about
that's
how.
Fine. Well, we'll have to do it again.
Can I say something? And I haven't voiced this on my Instagram account. I mean, I don't have, in the picture of Instagram, I don't have that many followers. I have 14,000. Which, as we know, is nothing. But since the war began in Ukraine, I've only posted things to do with Ukraine and nothing else seems important. And I was thinking, do I write something on the account? And I thought, I don't know, I shouldn't judge, but disappoints me how few people have liked my posts about the Ukraine and the courage of these, 66,000 Ukrainians living in other countries have flown back to the Ukraine to fight. 66,000. Wow. And I showed you earlier the Scottish grandfather, age 61, who has flown from Scotland. Also, which I'm trying to post. I told I'm having trouble working it out how to do it. And an American ex-army guy, from Wisconsin or somewhere, boarding a plane to Warsaw to fight. They're not even Ukrainians. These people, Americans. I post about this, and I hardly ever look how many likes. I don't look I don't look at those things, and I don't have the count. But I thought I'd have a look, and I was disappointed that people were not responding to that. Because I love that so many people adore Rocky Horror and what it stands for and everything about it, as do I. But, part of everything is kindness to the world at large. And it's just such an important thing. And it's such a tragedy what's happening. And even more because of only one person.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that completely. Obviously, some people just...
Yeah, we all have to do something anyway. Well, but darling, to all the listeners, I'm so touched that you listen to the show and that you love Rocky Horror. I do too. Whenever I end up I watch bits of it with fans, and I jump up and do the time walk with them. We have such a ball, and it never gets old for me either. So, as I say, don't dream it, be it, baby cakes.
Well, Nell, I hope we get to see you at a convention at some point over back here in the UK.
To meet you guys.
I've met Patricia, so now I need to meet you.
Okay, lots of love to you all. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. You too. Thank you so much. Take care.
Pleasure. Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
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 Hey, Jamie, do you like being cozy?
I do.
And do you like staying cozy?
I like that even more.
Then just heading over to www.staycozyclothing.com.
Where you can find hoodies, tees, sweaters, and much, much more.
And just enter The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order.
And make sure you follow them on the Instagram at Stay Cozy Clothing to keep up to date with all the new designs.
Remember, guys, that's The Chronicles as one word at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And now back to this week's episode.
Just wonderful. The fact that she told me off 2 or 3 times as well made that just quite wonderful for me as well.
Yeah, I thought she was quite inspirational towards the end as well. She was a very inspirational, very funny, lovely lady, and it was just nuts, and I loved every single second of it.
She's nuts, but I love how passionate she is about the things she talks about, which really, it's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
And hopefully, guys, you enjoy listening to it as much as we did recording it.
Hey there. I'm Frank Guglielmelli, and I'm the narrator for the audio drama Feed, featuring such audio dramas as Bounty Hunters, Marty and Mars, Val Toby, and so much more. You can find all of these wonderful programs on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or you can go to our website at www.audiodramafeed.com. We are thrilled to be affiliated with the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.